is that there's Well, a very good evening, and welcome to the season debut of the Varsity Link Coaches Corner on the Shore Sports Network. Kevin Williams, along with Ed Sarluka in the wild-colored shirt tonight. Bob Batters, who got the memo about the attire. Ed did not. And we are delighted to be back. My goodness, it seems like it's been a long time since we've done something like this, like live at a place. Last year, we did a virtual edition of the show, but we are thrilled to be back, starting our year here. I think this is our 12th year, something like that, Ed. You and I go back to the beginning of doing this show, Coach's Corner, where we spend 1 hour every Wednesday this year, like last year, from 7 to 8 p.m., 1 hour every week, talking Shore Conference High School football. And we'll be getting into tonight. We're going to no guests in terms of players and coaches, which we will do for the rest of the season. But tonight we're going to sort of do our preview of the upcoming season, which we know has already started, but really this week, really the first full week of high school football. But before we do that, I want to welcome in, sitting to my left and your right as you're watching on your computer screen or your app or whatever, is Jason Wambo. Some people will recognize him, assistant football coach in the Shore area. He's been at Ocean Township High School the last few years. We kidded around. He's not the quarterback's coach. He's the offensive line coach. And Jason is affiliated with Asylum here and also Varsity Link. And again, Varsity Link is our sponsor this year. And I'm sure most of you who are watching are saying, well, what is Varsity Link? So here to answer that question is Jason.
All right, thank you very much for having me. I'm delighted to be here tonight. Really, really excited to introduce Varsity Link and kind of get it out there. First and foremost, we're going to be dropping Varsity Link tonight. It's going to be available on their app store at 8 p.m. tonight. So what is Varsity Link? Varsity Link is the athlete social media network. We're giving our athletes an opportunity to go out there, share their news feed, drop photos, drop videos, but at the same time, we're building it to enhance the recruitment process. Right? This is going to enhance that process for both coaches and players alike. So we're really, really excited to get this out there and get it going. Super excited to be here, like I said, and thank you very much for having me.
Now, when you say recruiting, it could be anything from Division III, JUCO, all the way up to Division I.
Yeah, that's right. And I think that we're going to really, really get a huge draw right away from our Division III clientele. Being a Division III athlete myself, there's a lot of guys that get overlooked and guys that slip under the radar or slide through the cracks and can turn out to be really great players. So this is going to be a great app for them to really get out there and kind of show what they're made of. But you know what the biggest part about Varsity Link is that they can put their measurables up. They can show what they are, and it's verified. So these coaches, they don't have to go searching and making sure it's true results. It's going to be verified by gyms like ourselves, Asylum Sports Center. We're going to have partnerships with gyms all over the country.
All right, so as you said, 8 o'clock tonight, the app goes live. I guess
right.
Google Play, any of the familiar places where you'll get it?
Google Play and also the Apple iOS store.
Okay.
Yep.
And Varsity Link is the app.
Varsity Link it is, yep.
You download it.
That's right.
And it'll sort of take you through the whole process of what you have to
very,
do.
very, very simple. There's 4 types of accounts we have. So once you download the app, you're going to have a team account. There's a coaching account. There's a basic account. And then there is our athlete account, right? Our athlete account is going to be probably the one that we're going to see a lot of coming back tonight. Our athlete account, now I want to break it down for you a little bit. Our athlete account, when you sign on to that athlete account, it's going to give you an opportunity to put a profile shot up there. Once you get that profile shot up, you're going to have the ability to fill out all of your information, your name, right, your height, your weight, all those basic measurables. And then as we progress throughout the next few weeks, we're going to drop a new version out, version 2, coming out in, I believe, 4 to 5 weeks we're dropping it. And their main results and their 40-yard dash and 5-10-5s and all of these things, SAT scores, are all going to be uploaded and accessible for college coaches as they log on to their accounts.
So athletes, coaches, parents.
Parents, that's right.
Download the app, 8 o'clock tonight, Varsity Link, and give your kids that extra step, that extra advantage in what is a very competitive process.
It is very competitive, and you know what? There's so many different things out there. There's NSCA. There's all these different opportunities to get recruited, but we're taking all of that and putting it into one, right? We want to make this recruitment process as easy as possible for our athletes, for the coaches. We want to be down the road where we're looking at, Urban Meyer driving down Route 35, being able to click a button and having the top 10 players in the area pop up, and him being able to pull off and make some stops.
It's all about Varsity Link, 8 o'clock tonight. Download the app. While I have you here, how does it look for the Big Red this fall?
I'll tell you what, we're really coming along. We're working hard. Our guys are getting better every single day. We're really excited to kick off tomorrow night. COVID year last year was crazy, so it's extra special this year. So we're super excited.
Well, Coach, tell Coach Klein we send our regards.
Certainly
Wish you
will.
all the best, and thanks so much. Really excited
Thank you
about
very
this
much.
partnership.
Thank you very much. We are too.
Jason Wamba.
Appreciate you.
Speaking about Varsity Link, and of course, as I said, he's here at Asylum and offensive line coach at Ocean Township High School. So there we go. Thank you, Jace.
One of our favorite coaches, Donnie
I
Klein.
love Donnie Klein.
Always
what a
good with
character.
us.
He's
Always good with us.
Let me tell you, a guy who pulls no punches.
Yes.
A guy who pulls no punches. So anyway, welcome back, or if you're just joining us, thanks for joining us on the season debut of the Varsity Link Coaches Corner. I'm Kevin Williams, as mentioned, the coach Ed Sarluca. Next to me, and of course, Bob Batters, the managing editor of the Shore Sports Network, down on the end. Tom Tremblay, of course, taking care of all the technical stuff here with a big assist from my right-hand man, Steve Myers. So, guys, normally I would say this is kicking off the season, but the season actually kicked off last weekend. Victories for Keensburg and Red Bank Catholic. Keensburg beating West Windsor Plainsboro 21-8. RBC totally dominating Timber Creek 34-0. I interviewed Coach Mike Lang earlier this week on ShoreSportsNetwork.com. Bob, you were at that game down South Jersey. Was RBC as good as the score would indicate, or do you question how good Timber Creek might have been?
It's a little of both. RBC was as good as the score indicated. Timber Creek, not the power program they've been in past years, but they do have an FBS quarterback in Donovan Leary, who's committed to the University of Illinois. So what impressed me is what they were able to do against him. He only played the first half, suffered what looked to be a minor injury, but the score being a blowout, they kept him out. 5 of 11, 60 yards, and they intercepted him once. So that's going against a quarterback who's going to sit back there and sling it. So RBC got pressure. They're very good in the secondary, and they're just very talented across the board. And as Mike Lang said, as I talked to him after the game, a very good start for the Caseys. They'll have some big tests coming up, but I definitely liked what I saw.
I don't think you could mention RBC without mentioning key transfers they got with the closing of Modern Day Prep.
Not
the
closing,
closing,
not
but
closing.
the football varsity football team. I know
right.
they're going to play a JV schedule. Bob?
Yeah, it certainly was an impact. Alex Brown is now the starting quarterback for Red Bank Catholic after starting for 2 years at Modern Day, and he looked great. I wasn't kidding when I was tweeting. He was Houdini back there. He must have escaped 5, 6, 7 sacks, had a really good game. Rajon Cooper, running back and linebacker, had a really good game, a nice burst, 50-yard run that set up a score. Lineman Ashton Mejias, and then the kicker Jake Jacobson. So certainly impact players. You got 4 starting players coming over. And that's what happened in Modern Day. All those starters went elsewhere. There isn't a ton of them from the Shore, and you're seeing the ones from the Shore, at places like St. John Vianney, at places like Red Bank Catholic and Donovan Catholic.
Well, we'll jump on RBC a little bit more when we discuss the Constitution Division. And what we're going to do is we're going to sort of take you through each of the divisions very briefly and a little bit, and then we'll all sort of pick who we think will win it. There is the Shore Conference has been realigned again this year. As most football fans knew, they're going to do this on an annual basis. And based on some factors, school size, they take geography into some extent, and, of course, recent performance are sort of the indicators for where they put teams. Little bit of a challenge because their goal has been to split the non-public schools, not put 2 of them in the same division. Don't want to get too complicated, but it's based on points for the state playoffs and all of that. And then, of course, Ed touched on, but Modern Day Prep announcing late that they were not going to field a varsity team came after the realignment. So sort of that had an impact there. Some of those teams in that division then had to go out and try and pick up a game to fill what was a game on their schedule already. But let's start, guys. Last year there were no divisions. Last year there was Ocean County and Monmouth County. There was no champion of any kind. The entire 2020 season, nobody could officially claim anything, whether it be a division title, a state title. There was one unofficial, very unofficial tournament, I guess you could call it, at the end of the season. The Shore Conference did a pod setup where basically they took what they perceived as the top 4 teams and took them in pod 1, the next 4 in pod 2, the next 4 in pod 3. Now, there were some exceptions. There were schools that had COVID-19 challenges who didn't go in. But for all intents and purposes, we got what we've all declared as the unofficial Shore Conference championship game, with Wall beating Donovan Catholic. No reason to replay. It's one of the great Shore Conference games in recent memory. Literally 12 to 8 inches shy, Donovan Catholic on the last play of the game of winning it. This year there'll be another pod tournament, but there are divisions this year, and there's 8 of them. 8 divisions, so there's a lot of teams that are going to put on their varsity jacket, division champ. And let's start with the national division or the small division based on school size. You have Keensburg, Keyport, Pinelands, Lakewood, Point Pleasant Beach, and Monmouth Regional. Bob, I'll let you start on your thoughts on this division.
I mean, it's on paper, it looks like it's going to be a very competitive division. I mean, you do have, you have 2, really 3 Group 3 schools in there with Lakewood, Monmouth Regional, and Pinelands. But the reason they're in that small school division is, A, they've struggled over recent years, and their football numbers mirror what the numbers do of those other programs. So that's why they're in there. Keensburg is a team that jumps off, the top because they have one of the best, if not the best player in the division in senior quarterback Mikhail Braithwaite. And, this is a player who started or at least played significantly since he was a freshman. He is their quarterback, so he affects the game, to a large degree. And they've kind of been steadily pushing forward, Keensburg. I mean, they were above 500 last year, so if there was a playoffs, they probably would have made it, and that's kind of their goal this year. So got to like Keensburg right off the bat for me.
And they already got a win.
They do.
Even though it was non-conference, it's nice to start off the so-called Shore season with a 1-0 record.
Yeah, certainly it's better than 0-1, I'd say.
They beat West Windsor Plainville.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, so Bob, you like Keensburg. Is there a dark horse here for you?
I mean, Keyport's another. It's hard because I think they all could be dark horses because you don't know in that division, and I think this is going to be the theme for a lot of divisions as you see going forward. But Lakewood at any time, I know they're struggling with numbers, but there's some really good players there, and if they could put it together, it wouldn't be shocking to see them have that kind of year. Keyport's another team, for years running that wing T under Mike Ciccatelli, and now under Jason Glesman, they've been running the spread, so they're airing it out over there in Keensburg, and they have one of the best wide receivers in the Shore in senior DJ Thompson, part of a long line of players from that family that have played for Keyport. Brian Thompson, an excellent defensive lineman. Alex Thompson, who was a quarterback there, ended up playing at Marshall at the FBS level. So, a 6'4" wide receiver in that division. Again, it's a wide receiver. It's not the same as a quarterback and running back. He's a very good player, plays both ways. So, Keyport could be that team. Lakewood, again, I really could probably make a case for every team in this division. Point Beach was winless last season, but the last 3 years, they've shown they can go from winless to a playoff team. So for any of these teams to bounce back is certainly within the realm of possibility.
Couple things, Kev. Number one, remember that the season is the first 6 games, and that's it. So it's very important to get off to a good start.
Absolutely.
Especially in this division. And usually after 2, definitely 3 weeks, you're going to know who those top teams are because they're going to have a couple wins right off the bat. And then you throw into the mix in these small schools that usually are not big on numbers.
Yeah.
You throw into the mix the bad word, COVID, and a lot of things can affect it. We see that in the other levels right now, college and the pros, how the COVID is still around, unfortunately, and the high schools are going to have to deal with that.
All right. So do you like Keensburg?
I like Keyport.
You like Keyport?
Yeah, I like Keyport.
All right. I have, and I already highlighted mine so you guys can see it. I picked Keensburg, and I don't. Dark horse is the wrong word, but the other school I have to keep an eye on is Lakewood. They are a Group 3 school, and they have superb athletes. And L.J. Clark seems to be able to get the most out of them. So I would not count Lakewood out if they get the schedule break of playing smaller schools this year. So that's the National Division. The Patriot Division, which I think is a tremendous division, is made up of Barnegat, Manchester, Point Pleasant Borough, Shore Regional, Jackson Liberty, and Asbury Park, who moves up normally in with the Group 1 schools. And, Ed, I'm going to let you go first. Your thoughts here.
Well, I think this division might be settled in week 1, Kevin, because Point Borough plays Shore Regional in week 1 this weekend. And, I mean, do they play tomorrow?
They do, yes.
Yeah, they
it's a
play
Thursday night
tomorrow.
game.
So, I mean, the winner there definitely becomes the favorite. You know, I saw Point Borough in a scrimmage. They're very good. Got some good running talent. They have an outstanding quarterback, a senior quarterback, and the runner fill me in on his name again, Bob.
For Point Borough, Jay Croce, a sophomore
Jay
A-back.
Croce, sophomore A-back, who's outstanding. Had a couple of nice long runs the other night in the scrimmage that I saw. Barnegat, new coach, Paul Covine, takes over the program from Rob Davis. Of course, he's been in the program, so, I believe 12th season as an assistant coach. So not too much of a change there, but he is a new head coach, first time on the sidelines in that capacity. And, of course, Shore Regional under Coach C, always an outstanding team year in and year out. And, I think, week 1, Bob.
It's certainly, but I look at this division, and I think it's wide open.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm with you. I think Point Borough has a chance to have a really good year because – they have some really good linemen. They have good size up front,
yes.
Especially for a Group 2 school. They have some big dudes on both sides of the line. Now, when you're running that flexible and that triple option, obviously you need some athletes, but experience goes a super long way. They have a 3-year starting quarterback in Charlie Vitale. They have a really good A-back in Jay Croce, who's still only a sophomore, started as a freshman. And then 2 good slot backs, Connor Salento, and then Aiden Kirk, who's a first-team All-Shore lacrosse player who's out for the team now, adds another athlete in that dimension. So they're going to be able to attack with multiple options. And when you can do that and you have good coaches like you have there, Brian Staub, obviously the head coach, coaching the offense, Ryan Canary on that O-line, they could do some damage. As Ed mentioned, Sure. Mark Constantino's won multiple championships for a reason. Jamie Mazzocco is going to be their quarterback, an outstanding 3-sport athlete. And they always find a way. So Shore's in the mix. And I'm telling you, do not sleep on Asbury Park. I know they're a Group 1 program. I know they're coming up. But they have some young talent that is still young, but that has been playing since they were freshmen. Jason Brown, their quarterback, is a big, 6'3", I believe, quarterback. Najir Massey, if I remember correctly, at running back. And they always, again, they find a way to compete.
Tough to play on the blue turf of Asbury Park.
And I will, and I know Kevin will probably get into some of the other teams, but Manchester had a great year last year.
Yeah.
And I know Barnegat has a new coach, but that's a program, like Barnegat never has a bad year. They always find their way in it. So, I mean, this could go in a lot of different directions. I really think so.
If I was in a debate club, I think I could debate for 4 of these schools to have a good chance to win the division.
Yes.
I think this one goes down to the wire. I know Ed said we'll get a good gauge in week 1, and I agree. I would consider Point Pleasant Borough the slight favorite, and I do mean slight. Clearly, if they beat Shore Regional, they get a leg up, no question about it. Do not count Barnegat out at all. Paul Covine's been there for 12 years. I mean, there's consistency there. I think that's a very smooth transition. And don't sleep on who Bob just mentioned is Manchester. They have the top returning quarterback from last year. He was our second-team Shore Sports Network All-Shore quarterback in Savon Myers. And 6'4", 6'5", got a gun for an arm. Did lose some of his weapons. There's no question about it. But they're an interesting team, and they got a taste of winning last year, which they didn't have. It's been a long time for winning seasons for them.
Absolutely. As you mentioned, Myers had a great year last year, threw for over 1,000 yards. They did lose some key players, but Damari Brown back as receiver, Evan Wiener, who's about 6'6", is a really good kicker. You'll see more of him at wide receiver this year. And some motivation. Manchester, in the history of the program, has never had back-to-back winning seasons. in their history. So you got it. I don't know if that's something they've talked about, but that's got to be some motivation because they have the ability to turn around and do that. It's not like they had everyone last year and everyone graduated. They have really good players back, and it's a division they can certainly compete in for the title.
And Brian Wilkinson, the head coach, certainly knows what he's doing and how to win.
Yep. So there you go. All right, so that's the Patriot division. The Liberty division consists of Freehold Township, Neptune, Central, Marlboro, and Matawan. I want to mention there are 4 new head coaches in the Shore, and we'll sort of talk about them as we go to divisions. We touched on Paul Covine. Brian Duffy is the first-year head coach at Neptune, was an outstanding lineman at Brick Memorial, later Rutgers University, has been an assistant for several years. Neptune among the places he was an assistant at before taking over. Bob, I'm going to let you jump in first. Actually, I'll tell you what to do. I'm going to go first. All right, so I was really torn with this division. Honestly, had a tough time. My top 2 teams are Freehold Township and Central Regional, and not because it's my alma mater, but I like what Central has back this year. They have pretty good numbers. They have quite a few returning starters on both sides of the ball. I think Jared Pigeon was a first-year head coach last year, and I've talked to several coaches. Everyone was challenged coaching in COVID-19. I think the guys who were the first-year head coaches had even the bigger challenge. So I think Jared sets in. So I like Central and Freehold Township both in that division.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. When I look at this, all the division, this one is the toughest one for me to pick. Like, I look at it and I'm like, I don't know. Like, I could go a lot.
You just said that about the National.
No, that's a different one in where I think there's multiple teams that contend. In this one, I look and I go, like, maybe all of them, or maybe it's a runaway with one team. Central, I think they have the most back, and as you mentioned, they've had some success lately. Freehold Township too. Corey Davies is a veteran coach, and they started off really hot early in his tenure, and they've slowed down a little bit. So they're going to try to get some of that back. They're going to run the ball a little bit more this year. It's still the air raid. It's the spread more than the air raid, I guess, but they're still going to throw it a little bit. Marlboro and Matawan, not real too sure on. Neptune, we know they have talent, but there's some challenges with numbers there. I think if Brian Duffy can get those kids to buy into what he's trying to instill there, they're going to have success long term. I mean, Duffy, one of my high school teammates, he knows what he's doing. He's been a part of championship staffs. He was the Mark Ciccatelli at Neptune when that running game was running for like 600 yards in the playoffs. And then most recently at Wall. So he's a state championship winning coach.
Yep.
He knows what needs to get done, especially he knows how to win at that school. Just right now they're facing some challenges. But, if you ask me who's your team, I'd say Central Regional.
Yeah, I'm going to go out on the limb and pick Neptune here.
Okay.
Because I do believe they have talent, And I did see a little bit of their scrimmage against Lacey Township, who's not bad this year. And they threw up a couple long passes, 50-plus yards, and those kids went up and got them. Brian Duffy should not be underestimated because he comes from championship stock, He got a lot of credit at Wall the last few years for building that offensive line into what Wall has become. Mm-hmm. So you build teams around offensive line, and if he can do that, like Bob said, they could be tough. I'll go out on the limb here and pick Neptune.
Bob, by the way, was telling us when he was in high school days at Brick Memorial, he dominated
Brian.
He dominated Duffy on a regular basis. All right.
No chance.
The Independence division features another first-year head coach, sort of. First-year head coach at this school, Bill Hill, who's Howell royalty, takes over as the head coach of the Rebels. Previously head coach at Asbury Park and Toms River South. Also in that division, Brick Memorial, Middletown North, Lacey Township, and Brick Township. This is a really good division. And again, you can find some faults where teams are located. But if the Shore Conference Football Committee's job or main job was to try and have competitive balance, the fact that we are sitting here really 24 hours away from the kickoff from many of the schools, and we're not sure, tells you there's a lot of parity here.
I totally agree. Howell will, throw the ball an awful lot. They've got a good quarterback, a couple good receivers. Brick Memorial runs that flex bone. a young quarterback in Connor Dietz, right? Sophomore kid who will only get better. I saw him a couple times in the preseason. He can run the ball, and according to Walt Curry, the head coach, says he is the best thrower of the football since Ryan Saplinski was about, 10 years ago, or maybe
I hope it wasn't that long ago.
Oh, well, 6 or 7 or
It's
8
been a
years
little
ago.
bit, yeah.
Who is went into Europe and played and very successfully. So that's high praise for the young quarterback. Middletown North, always tough up there in Middletown. Lacey, who is going to be my pick in that division right now. Scott Stevens, one of the top players in the state, coming off an ACL. Can he come back all the way? He's going to start the season not playing any offense. He's a great running back, but he is also an outstanding linebacker. And, of course, Bricktown is Bricktown. So very even, Kevin, like you said. Very even division. I'll go with Lacey.
I agree completely. Not on the Lacey pick necessarily, but in terms of how deep this division is. I mean,
Right.
as you mentioned with Howell, what they have back, and Brick Morrill as well. Middletown North, look, Steve Bush is widely regarded as one of the best coaches in the Shore, regardless of what Middletown North's record is. They have a returning starter quarterback, who's 6'6", Tommy Giannone. Brian Haddo is one of the very good running backs, one of the more underrated two-way players in the Shore, I think. Had a very good sophomore season when he had to step in and was good on both sides of the ball. So Middletown North, a dangerous team. Brick doesn't have any really flashy players back. No one's going to jump off the page in terms of like the names, other than probably Darian Newcomb, who's been a 4-year starter, and Ryan Ponuska, their quarterback, who his last name will be familiar to many fans of Shore Conference football. But they're loaded. I think they have 10 starters returning on both sides of the ball. You don't count out a veteran team. They'll find a way to be successful. Lacey, as you mentioned, Scott Stevens, a tremendous player. Noah Brunati back as their quarterback. I think we'll find out early in the season, who is going to take the lead here. But again, this could be one of those, oh wow, these teams are 2-0, and then you look 2 weeks later and okay, they're 2-2. So I don't know. I think we're going to have a lot of divisions where you have a 1-loss champion, maybe even a 2-loss champion. This could be one of those divisions. I had to pick. I'm going to go with Lacey as well.
Okay, I have Lacey, and I'm going to pick one of the Bricks to finish next. I don't know which one, but I agree with you. I think Brick Township is going to surprise some people. You mentioned it. Not flashy, not a lot of big names, but a lot of kids who played a lot of football last year. So that's my thoughts. By the way, Lacey coach Lou Versillo, one win away from 300.
And not only that, but that's a huge – they're all big divisional games, obviously, as we just talked about. But September 10th, Friday, at Lacey. Lacey versus Brick. So a big rivalry game. Coach Lou going for 300. Should be a good night down in Forked River.
He won't get it this weekend because they don't play this week.
Correct.
They open up next week. We're halfway through the divisions. Of course, you're watching the Varsity Link Coaches Corner on the Shore Sports Network. We'll do this every Wednesday night. We'll be on the road starting next week, and we'll flip-flop between a couple of locations. Next week, we will be at the Office Restaurant and Lounge in Toms River, where we were a couple of years ago. And, of course, we again want to welcome our sponsor this year. It is Varsity Link, which is powered by Asylum, where we are tonight, Asylum Sports Center. And a reminder, at 8 o'clock tonight, the Varsity Link app becomes available. And it's an app to help with the recruiting of high school football players. So if you're an athlete, if you're a parent, if you're a coach, you probably want to go in there into the Google Store, the App Store, at Apple Store at 8 o'clock tonight and download the Varsity Link app. As they say, it's the athlete's social media network. All right, fellas, the Freedom Division, Freehold Borough, St. John Vianney, Toms River South, Long Branch, Toms River East. Another kind of mishmash of schools that would never really be together, but they are here. And I think, Bob, you're up first. Or is that up first?
Nah, go ahead, Bob.
Why? Oh, thank you very much. Now we start getting into divisions where I think it's a little easier to pick at least the front runners. And for me, I have to start off with Freehold Borough, a team that finished in the top 10 last season, starts in the top 10 this year. They lost a great player to graduation, and quarterback Shaquem Schuler was a first-team All-Star player. But they bring back 3 really, really good players. And Yasin Calhoun, who's a first-team All-Shore defensive back and had like 900 combined yards on offense. Kamor Gill, who was another one of those slash running back wide receiver players who had about 800 yards from scrimmage. He'll move to quarterback. And then Tyler Achosky, defensive end, tight end. He'll move to linebacker this season, but a really, really good two-way player. So those three will lead the way for them. And, again, that's three really good players, three of the best in the Shore. Three players are on our preseason All-Shore team there. So, you can win with guys like that, and I really like them, right off the bat.
And they, by the way, Dave Ellis does a great job as the head coach. They averaged 30 points a game last year.
Yeah.
You mentioned finished in the top 10 with all that talent back. I would agree with you. They are clearly the team to beat in that division. As you would say, don't sleep on St. John Vianney.
Certainly.
A team that's had a lot of success in recent years. And give a glance to Toms River South. And I know they lost some really good seniors last year. Jack Huber, their quarterback, who was there for 15 years, I think. But they've got, they've made a quarterback this year out of an athlete, Wyatt Sternberg, 6'4". I think we'll see him on the ground a lot more than in the air. Big, solid kid. But they have a nice group of players back, and they got it. And again, almost like Manchester, they got a taste of winning last year and realized it's pretty good. It's nice to win.
Certainly. The big question always with a team like that is last season's Toms River South team was extremely senior-laden.
Yes.
Like that team was led by a really large and impactful group of seniors. So now, they aren't there. What does this senior class do? So that's the unanswered question. I mean, certainly the ability and the talent is there for them to back it up and have another good year, but you just don't know how they're going to respond as last year's seniors did.
Similarity, and they all knew last year that was a great senior
Yes.
class because they won as freshmen. This year's seniors also had a lot of success as freshmen. Doesn't always work out that way, but never mind. I think we do have to mention one thing before Ed talks about the division. Danny George at Long Branch, legendary coach. This is his final
Yes, this is
season.
it for Danny George. He announced he stepped down as the head wrestling coach, which is that's happened. That was his last year,
Right.
and then he announced this is his last year in football. So kind of the Danny George parade. We'll see him, and also like again, that's Long Branch. Like, don't sleep on them completely because they can go out and have a really good year. Before Ed gets into it, I just want to talk about SJV for a second. Antonio Rosado, quarterback, coming back. Pete Pizzula at running back. Both those guys had nice years. Mason Schenk, one of the best kickers in the Shore, was our first-team All-Shore kicker last year. And he's not just a kicker. He's either a defensive end or a linebacker, plays for them. He had a really good year on defense. So not just a kicker, just a really good overall football player for them. And they have a big we'll find a lot about them, coming Friday night when they play Manalapan.
Yeah, I go along with you guys with Freehold Borough. I think Dave Ellis is about ready to take that next step up. I mean, as you said, outstanding offense. He's a nightmare as an old defensive coordinator. He would give me nightmares the week having to prepare for him because he has home run hitters. He can control the ball if he has to, and he can throw the ball. So I think they are the easy choice in that division. South coming off of a 6-2 season, first time for Ronnie Signorino in a while. Always competitive last year. East 2 years ago, very competitive. Yep. Last year came back down a little bit, 3-5. So, we didn't mention the Raiders yet, but always competitive when you play at Dvorak Field in there at Toms River East. So look for them to be competitive in that division. But I think Freehold Borough, the easy choice there, Bo.
If that's an easy choice, the next one is the easiest choice.
Yes.
And that is the Constitution Division, which your lineup is made up of Red Bank Catholic, Ocean Township, Raritan, Red Bank Regional, and Manasquat. Now, there's a lot of heritage in this division, schools that have been among the Shore elite for many, many years. But we talked a little bit about RBC, their opening last week. They are just simply loaded. So I'm going to speak for all of us in saying that RBC is the overwhelming favorite. But let's talk a little bit about the division, Ed.
Raritan, good this year, right, Bob?
Yes.
Raritan, a good football team, we'll compete with those schools. And, of course, Manasquan, always the great program, will also compete there. But I agree, it's got to be Red Bank Catholic as far as the leader in that division.
Yeah, RBC, the literal elephant in the room there.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone is going to challenge Red Bank Catholic. I think we'll see that some teams maybe, just play a little bit better against them, but I don't know what kind of gauge that is really going to be. To me, the more interesting race is for second. Who wins, I guess you call the public division champion if we were honoring that. To me, it's Raritan Manasquan. Raritan, Ben Hutchins coming back at quarterback, Kieran Falzone as their running back, both having really good seasons. Alex Dekas at linebacker. Those three lead the way. I really like Manasquan. That's why I ranked them number 10 in the preseason top 10. Very talented team, a lot of young talent, a really good senior class too. Cole Kozlowski, Robert Pendrickus, Jack and Ryan Burns, to name a few. And at the quarterback position, Brett Patton is a very dynamic two-way player. You're going to see Manasquan. Look, it's still Manasquan within that offense, but you're going to see them do some things that you're really not used to a Manasquan team doing because they have the personnel to do it. Just some good players, solid players. Patrick Woodford is one of those Manasquan-type players, a winning player on both sides of the ball. Jameer Howard back, junior running back. They're talented. They're a good team, so I'm really excited to see what they look like, and they're going to start off against Middletown South on Thursday night.
That's an interesting. By the way, the fourth.
Right,
new
I was just going to set
coach,
you up there.
New is an oxymoron in this case, but Shane Fallon takes over the program at Red Bank Regional after 1 year at Neptune.
Strange move, right?
Yeah, it's a puzzler, but after having tremendous amount of success for many years at Rumson, then becoming an athletic director, thinking that's what his career path was. And then after doing that for a few years, really realizing that I was meant to coach football. He went to Neptune last year for whatever his reasons are. He resigned at Neptune and took over the job at Red Bank Regional, kind of closer to where he's from geographically. But that's an interesting one, Bob.
It is, in terms of you go 1 year and then you leave. But, in talking to Shane at the time and writing the story on that, just a move that made too much sense for him to pass up. He went to school in Rumson, still lives there, so it's right down the road from his house. And he has history there. His father was a physical education teacher there, an assistant football coach, and the athletic director for 20 years there.
Yeah.
So, Red Bank Regional is pretty much was his second home growing up. So for him to get a chance to go over there, it made too much sense not to do it. So now he's there. And look at Shane Fallon. He's a championship-winning coach. The juggernaut that Rumson is today was, built by Shane. And obviously Coach Jerry Schulte and his staff have taken it to the next level. But there's no reason to think that he cannot do that at Red Bank Regional. Now, it's not going to happen in 1 year. It's going to take some time. But, it's Shane Fallon. There's that trust factor there. And he's got some good assistant coaches with him there. Chris Barnes, former Wall head coach and Jackson Memorial, is there on his staff coaching the running back. So that'll be they're an interesting team to watch. They have some good players back. It's not going to happen in 1 year, but I think we'll see some nice growth there from the Bucks, who have had success lately. It's not like they've been, bottom feeders either.
That's another intriguing move, isn't it, Chris Barnes?
Well, is he retired?
I don't know that for a fact.
No, I think he's still in the guidance department. He's an administrator in Wall, I believe.
Okay, I don't know.
I do not know.
But maybe a guy who just missed the sidelines, and his kids are probably out of school.
I think some of them are still in college and very good athletes.
I don't know,
I
but
believe.
Yeah,
we always try to get a few words out of him when we're at
one of my
Wall.
favorite people.
He is,
Chris
exactly,
is a great guy.
and a great coach.
That's the thing. He's a great coach, and I know Shane is excited to have him on staff.
And Donnie Klein, of course, at Ocean. We talked to Jason Wambo a little while ago, and they think they'll be okay. Tough division. Young, but listen, the Big Red, still one of the best places to be on a Friday night anywhere in the Shore Conference.
Yeah, a very good quarterback in Tyler Douglas, who's going to be a junior. They really like his dual threat ability, and he's been on the field since he was a freshman when he was their kicker and punter. And then Shane Garrett, the junior, the son of Kane University head coach Dan Garrett. Yep. Another good two-way player, tight end, defensive lineman. Big, strong kid. And look, Ocean, they're not the team that you're going to think about first in that division. And maybe not even second. But, again, a team with potential. And, if they get a big win there and knock somebody off, all of a sudden they're in the conversation. So a lot can happen there as well.
I always thought that between Lacey and Manasquan, that Lacey would be the last team to get lights. Guess what? It's now Manasquan.
But Manasquan does have turf, though. Not on the football field, but the field behind
Yeah, I was
the
going to
practice.
say.
So it's like no lights, but they do have the
behind.
turf.
It's
Nah,
this,
as Jay Price has said to me before, football in Manasquan is played on Saturdays, and that's about it.
But you know what? They did redo the field, and it was in fairly good shape. In fact, we remarked a couple of times when we saw the field there that it's best it's ever been, and Jay did agree with that. Until the soccer team plays a couple games on it and then tears it up. But, yeah, Saturday afternoon football, it's a staple in the Shore.
The Colonial Division, or I guess you want to call it Division number 2, if you're going by that, is the one I mentioned, Modern Day Prep, late announcing they would not field a varsity football team, kind of threw this thing out of whack. But you have Homedale, Middletown South, Southern Regional, Manalapan, and Jackson Memorial. So you have a couple of you have Group 5s here, and then you have Homedale, which I think is one of the smallest Group 3s in the state.
Correct.
So, from a size standpoint, there's a big difference here. I could make an argument for a couple teams here, and there's some. Listen, this is what I would call a program division. These are now programs that don't have one good year. Middletown South, Southern, Manalapan, Jackson, and Jeff Reynes has done an amazing job at Homedale building them into what they are. So, what do you think there, Mr. Batters?
I will say, to start off, this is the first division I think you get to where you see some of the complaints of why is this team in this division, and it's Homedale because of the fact that you mentioned they're a small Group 3 school, really a Group 2 in a lot of sports, and they're in there playing Jackson Memorial Group 5 or Group 4. Manalapan a Group 5, Southern a Group 5, Middletown South a Group 4. And they're going, why are we playing this? I think Jeff actually said something else. Hey, when Army goes 10-2, they don't put him in the SEC. Was his quote. And I understand the frustration there, but that ends up where they are, and they lost some good players. But again, like he's built them to the point where you expect them to be competitive every year, and I still think they will be. They're not going to be an easy team to play against. Getting prepared for that split back veer. Their version of the option is no fun, but. You look at the rest of the teams in the division. Middletown South is Middletown South. Southern has been, a very steady team as of late, and they have some very good players back. I know they expect to have a good season. Manalapan has been one of the most consistent programs in the Shore. A down year last season, but they have a lot of good players back. And you can say the same thing about Jackson Memorial. And this is a state championship team who's been good. They graduate with some really good players, but you expect them to get it together and have another good season. So I think this division is, again, it's going to be really fun to watch each week because it's going to be like a heavyweight, slugfest with, teams just taking each other down each week. I'd be surprised if one team surges ahead and has a big lead early in the season.
Yeah, the natural change should have been RBC and Homedale. Should have switched divisions.
Probably, but when you had Modern Day in there originally and then it got switched, I just don't think they were going to.
Yeah,
it wasn't going to happen.
They couldn't change it then because all the schedules were laid out and everything.
And that team also had 6 teams in to begin with, and if you take RBC out, you only have 4. So.
Yeah.
But yes, that is, believe me, that has been said to me more than once this preseason about where RBC is.
I'll make the first pick. Okay, I'm going to go with Southern Regional. I think, Coach Donahue ready. I mean, he's ready to win a championship. Jaden Brown, one of the top running backs in the state, not only the Shore. Tough on both D and offense.
And very good linebacker, too.
Yeah, exactly. So, like Bob said, Jackson, Manalapan, Middletown South, Homedale, all great games. You're going to see a lot of good games. I think they can knock each other off in that division. I'll go with Southern.
This is a real tough one because I could see Southern winning. Southern should be able to run the ball. I don't want to say at will, but they're built to that. Their line is big. They have one of the best running backs, like you said, returning, an all-short kid, and a really good fullback in Nate Committee. So, the ingredients are there for that. It's can they find some balance in the passing game to go with that. Manalapan has a lot of players back. Jackson, again, nothing will surprise me at Jackson because they always find a way. This Middletown South team, again, by Middletown South standards, 2-4 last year, a really weird year for them. They returned some good players and a few 3-year starters. It almost reminds the Middletown South team a couple years ago when they won the American Division, which was very deep at the time, and they found their way on top to win it. I could see this being a similar type of Middletown South team. again, this pick could blow up in like 2 weeks just because of the nature of the teams here. But I like Middletown South. They haven't had, you got to go back about 3 years ago. I think they were 8-3, made it to the sectional semifinals, lost to Brick, who went to the championship game against the Long Branch team who went back-to-back. The Middletown South team reminds me a little bit of that. I could see the Eagles bouncing back and getting the division title, adding to their considerable championship history.
I picked Middletown South as well, and don't even ask me about a runner-up because I think you could make a case for just about everyone there. I think Manalapan with Dom Lepori in his second year there bounces back from last season and becomes more of a Manalapan we're used to. This is going to be a very, very good division, and each weekend there will be heavyweight title fights in this division. The heavyweight division is the American division. Based on group size and recent success and all of that, you have Toms River North, Colts Neck, Donovan Catholic, Rumson Fairhaven, and Wall Township. And, Ed, I give you the honors.
Well, as you said, tough division here. My sleeper pick in here is Colts Neck. They're big, they're physical. 3-year quarterback, Bob? Or
4
at
years,
least four-year quarterback, outstanding. Rumson, I mean, all they've done is won, 6 titles over the last few years. Wall Township is the returning number 1. Toms River North, perennial great team. Lost a little last year, probably at the bottom of this division right now, and that is coming from their head coach, Dave Osowitz. He's not going to come out and say we're going to lose a lot of games, but he was not happy with being placed in this division at all, and spoke very,
Passionately.
passionately
Good
about
word for
that
that,
situation. But right off the bat tomorrow, or Friday night, Colts Neck visits Toms River North, so we'll see how good North can play and Colts Neck, how good they're going to be. I'm going to go with Donovan Catholic here, returning. Picked up a couple new players. Danny Curcione, outstanding young coach, did a tremendous job there. Came, as you said, Kevin, as we opened the show, a couple inches short of winning the whole thing, and who knows, would have made last winter a lot more happier for Donovan Catholic and Dan Curcione.
Robert?
Again, I don't want to sound like a broken record here, but a really deep and competitive division. It's kind of the theme of this. I'll start off with Wall, and I have to pick them because they've been the number 1 team in the Shore. I think it was since October. I wrote it in the preview when I actually looked it up. October 8th, 9th, something like that of 2019. Almost 700 calendar days at number 1. So until someone beats them, until someone knocks them off that perch, they're the champs. I'm picking them. To go along with that, they graduated 2 of the best players the program's ever had in Logan Peters and Casey Larkin. Big losses. You don't just replace guys like that. But they do bring back 17 starters, including 3 4-year starters, a bunch more 3-year returning starters. So it's not like the cupboard is bare there. It's not even close. So Wall is my pick until someone knocks them off. Now, that being said, Donovan Catholic has shown they are among the elite in the Shore. Again, graduated some good players, have a bunch of good players back, so expect them to be right there competing. The same thing with Rumson. Since there was no state playoffs last year, Rumson's streak of reaching 7 consecutive sectional finals is still intact. Are you going to bet against them to not make it 8 in a row? I'm not, to get back to the final. And then, as you mentioned, Ed, Colts Neck. They play in a certain brand of football under Matt Ahern, and it's they're going to play a certain way. They're physical. They're going to run the ball. They're going to play tough defense, and they're not going to be an easy team to play against. They have 2 300-pound tackles that are going to lean on you all game. Their running back system has kind of become, kind of what Red Bank Catholic was when Matt Ahern was there. Line is big, and this is not to disparage the running backs at all, but you kind of plug in the next best guy you have that next year, and they're going to have success. It's that one cut and go system, downhill running, and they have a quarterback who can do everything they want in that offense in Tommy Fallon. He can throw it. He's physical. He can run the ball on the ground, and he's a 4-year returning starter. He knows what's going on in that offense. So, Colts Neck, a team to be reckoned with. And Toms River North, I think if we had Toms River North was in that Colonial division, we'd be like, yeah, they can win that too. Yeah. It's just where they're placed, what they lost. My concern with Toms River North is their defense, because last year their defense was not good, to put it frank. And they still won some games because they had an offense that could put up 42 points a game if they had to. But you also had a two-time returning all-shore, quarterback in Jay Kazanowski, two all-shore wide receivers in
Scotty Goodale.
In Zach Goodale and Zach Brown.
Zach.
You had Jordan Gray at running back. You had Micah Ford, who's now the quarterback. You had all these pieces.
Yeah.
They don't have that much on offense now. So if the defense doesn't improve, it's going to be very hard to compete with those teams in that division. But again, it's going to be really fun. I could cover a game in that division every single week if I really wanted to.
Have you noticed a recurring theme tonight about 4-year starters at quarterback? Have we ever had a season where we've had so many 4-year starters at a key position that?
We got a couple. We got Tommy Fallon for sure. Mikael Braithwaite. I don't know if he's a 4-year or 3-year, but we have a lot of experienced players. At least in the previews I was writing, digging deep on, I had a lot of teams with 3- and 4-year return starters. Look at Wall, for example.
Yeah.
A unique case, but Charlie Sasso, 4-year starter. Colin Riley, 4-year starter. Yeah. Brian Byrne, 4-year starter. And then there's a bunch of the other 3. Max Oakley, 3-year starter. On their team, the 3-year starters almost get lost in the shuffle, which is kind of crazy to think about. But, yeah, a lot of experienced teams, and especially up front. There's not a lot of teams where you go, well, they're kind of young and rebuilding. Those teams are few and far between this season.
Bob, I agree with you. My analogy on Wall would be when somebody's got to beat them. They are the champions until someone beats them. I would rate them the slight favorite over Donovan Catholic. By the way, Wall plays Rumson this weekend on Saturday.
So I'll let you. Sunday night at Rutgers.
At Rutgers. Yeah. So, you're going to get that. There's a test right there. But I just feel like Wall has just built such a great program. They got to get knocked off. And so I would take Wall. I would put Donovan Catholic second. And, again, I think Colts Neck is going to be very competitive. Rumsfeld will be very competitive. Toms River North has the biggest challenge in that division.
The thing to watch early for both Wall and Rumson is the schedule. Look, if you play in the American Division, your schedule is very challenging just within those division games. Wall opens with Rumson, at Rutgers, 8 o'clock on Sunday night. 5 days later, they turn around and play at Red Bank Catholic, a team that will not have played since August 29th.
Yeah.
Rumson will do the same thing and play Donovan Catholic. So that's a 5-day stretch.
Yeah.
That is it's a gauntlet right
brutal.
there. It's brutal. So, look, even if either team somehow was not either team, but if one of those teams was 0-2 through that, it's not the end of the world, but it's definitely would be a hole that they're not used to. And the schedule, it's not it gets easier from here. So just something to watch for those two teams.
You are watching the season debut of the Varsity Link Coaches Corner. Kevin Williams, Ed Sarluka, Bob Batters. We'll do this every Wednesday night. Guys, how do you feel about basically the 6-game schedule, and then the expectation is you get 2 games in a short conference pod, right? That gets you to 8, and then the NJSIAA playoffs, or I guess you can pick up games towards the end. How do you feel about the way it's been done this year?
I love it. I think it's great. I think it was set last year when we came down to the final pod, those 4 teams, and then of course Wall and Donovan Catholic played it off, and I think it got great reviews. The whole system of doing it, so much that they brought it back again this year. We could almost pick each week the 4 teams that are going to be in that pod. I think that would be a pretty cool thing to do.
It's like how they it's not the BCS.
Bracketology.
It's not the BCS poll anymore, but the college football playoff. This is the top 4.
We can pick those 4 teams.
It will change, by the way, because teams are going to get beat.
Does that make a difference? That's what you got to think about.
That's kind of like you could look every week at the Shore Sports Network top 10.
Right.
As it changes, and it did last year, it was fluid.
My only question, I want to throw this because I've heard this from a couple of people. Have we now gotten to the point where basically we're only really playing the season to get to a tournament? Mm-hmm. And so, for example, the rivalries in many cases are gone. And geographic rivalries, I think it's really cool on Friday night, Brick is playing Toms River South. That has been a great rivalry for so many years. But again, in the changing of the divisions, it sort of got lost. Are we sacrificing what we'll call the regular season just to have a playoff? And at the end, we're really talking about a handful of teams who are going to be in those big games.
I don't think we're completely sacrificing it. I'm sure there are people that will disagree with me, but I think it's not what it was in terms of tradition. I was talking to this week at the Red Bank Catholic game, Mike McGarry, who writes for the Press of Atlantic City, and we're talking about the Shore Conference divisions, and you wonder, and this is a question I don't have an answer to. I'd have to ask players and coaches, really, the players, does winning a division title with these divisions mean as much because you're not playing, like I'll use A South, for example. Like those teams aren't playing the teams they're used to. Or like an A North, or the B North. There's teams that are used to playing each other, really all the divisions. Does it mean as much? If it doesn't, well, then that's a factor. If it does, then okay. Then clearly we don't know. But that's definitely a factor. Now, with the Shore Conference playoffs, I remember talking to coaches, players, especially the players. That meant a ton to them because it's one thing to be number one in the Shore because someone like me thinks you're number one in the Shore and wrote it there. Regardless of how it's played out in terms of, winning games and whatnot. It's another thing to have earned it on the field in a championship game, official or unofficial, as you may call it. So that means a lot to them. The Shore Conference supremacy, winning it on the field against kids that you know. So does that take the place of a division title? I mean, maybe, but you're talking about only one team winning it. So I'd love to kind of get a gauge of that. Does winning the division title mean as much? Now, for the teams that aren't as playoff focused, yeah, it probably will mean much, which is why I think the competitiveness within these divisions is a good thing because we went through that list. There's not too many teams that we gave no chance to.
Right.
So I think that's a good thing. In all, I love the format because you get the 6 games, you crown a conference champion, even though it's not official yet. We're trying to get to that point officially, and then right into the playoffs. I think it's a good thing. You're going to have teams prepared for that postseason run as well.
My feeling is that I think these players and teams are playing for the end of the year to get into that top 4 pod. That's my feeling.
Who's playing for that? Let's be perfectly honest with you. The teams in the national division are never getting in that pod.
Well,
no, they're not. You're talking about
obviously
teams from the first 4 divisions, probably. Maybe another team that would have to have an incredible
undefeated,
year,
right.
and you'd also the opportunity needs to be there. They need to have maybe played a team in one of those divisions and knocked them off. So that's not going to happen. But with these, like last year, those secondary pods, we'll call them, they didn't matter. I don't want to say they didn't matter. To the teams playing them, it certainly mattered.
Right.
If you're Rumson, you didn't make that top pod. Yeah, they weren't happy about that. But they went and beat 2 really good teams in Colts Neck and Freehold, ended on a high note, so they hang their hat on that. This year, there won't be, hey, I'm the Shore Conference champion, but it's, hey, I won this pod, and now we're going to the playoffs. With that, again, if I have my math and logistics right, those still count towards the playoffs as far as PowerPoints and things of that nature.
I think they do, yes.
So that is big for some of those teams. I mean, let's say you're in pod 3 even. Look, there's going to be some really good teams in there. You go and win that against 2 teams, you might have just jumped yourself for a home game for the playoffs or like one of the top 2 seeds. So in that aspect, it could really matter.
Do we know, both guys, who is picking the pods?
Well, it's the Shore Conference Football Committee.
Is it a committee?
Yes, it's the Shore Conference Football Committee, the same as they did last year.
Yeah.
Off the top of my head, I don't know exactly, but yeah.
Very important.
Certain ADs, certain coaches, I know
Correct.
they get together and figure that out.
All right, we only have a few minutes left, and there were a lot of things we didn't get to. And by the way, what we didn't get to, you can find on ShoreSportsNetwork.com. Bob has his preseason all-shore team, and I do want to, though, touch on the top 10, which this year we're going to do a little bit different. Our top 10 is brought to you by the Jeep Store. Bob has wall number 1, as does, I think, everyone else just about. Red Bank Catholic, Donovan Catholic, Rumson, and Colts Neck are 2 through 5. And then it's Southern, Middletown South, Freehold, Raritan, and Manasquan. This year, with the help of former Barnegat head coach Robbie Davis, who's now very involved, the president of Shore Football Coaches Association, there's also going to be a coaches top 20. Robbie is inviting every school to have one of their coaches submit a top 20. And I'm going to bring it up only because there's tremendous similarity in the coaches top 10 to Bob's top 10. Wall, Red Bank Catholic is second over Donovan Catholic. Then it's Rumson, Colts Neck, Southern, Middletown South, Freehold Borough, Raritan, and Manalapan. Not a huge difference at all there. The coaches are going to do a top 20 each week. By the way, again, it's on ShoreSportsNetwork.com. You can go there and get all of that. Bob has all that posted.
Yes, we'll have that every Tuesday alongside the Shore Sports Network top 10 that we put out. So you see what I think and see what the coaches think. It did match up pretty good. The only difference was I had Manasquan at 10, they had Manalapan at 10 down there. But again,
it was very close. Yeah, which either means that you're really smart, know what's going on, or you and the coaches have no idea what's going on.
Look, I even wrote in there. You can see in there. Last season, 5 teams that were unranked to start the season finished inside the top 10. And it only took 1 week for the number 2 team, which was Thompson North last year, to lose. So maybe not being ranked right now is maybe a better thing for you. I don't want to say I'm putting the kiss of death on anybody, but it's certainly possible.
A little bit of housekeeping before we wrap up. Number one, want to really thank Jason Wambo and the guys from Varsity Link. We are thrilled to have them as our partner this year. And again, in about 2 minutes, you can go into the App Store and download the Varsity Link app and get your athletes signed up and registered. And clearly it's something that will help them with their recruiting process. Varsity Link also allows friends, family, and the football community a chance to be part of the action as athletes and coaches post and interact, which should be very, very interesting. We're going to be doing something new this year. It is called the Block Game Day Countdown. Every Friday night, my friend Steve Meyer and I will be at a game which we consider one of the top games of the weekend. You'll see the Shore Sports Network SUV there. You'll find us there. I'm going to do some work on the Shore Sports Network Facebook page before the game, during the game, and after, because we're going to present a Block Game Day Countdown MVP award to one player. But probably the neatest thing and the reason why you'll want to stop by and see us, for example, Friday night we're at Toms River South as Toms River South hosts Brick. The reason you'll want to stop by and see us is because you can register to win dinner for 6 at the Block in West Long Branch, which is newly renovated. They have completely done the place open. We'll be opening very shortly in the next couple of weeks. And dinner for 6 there is a little more than Burger Chef. I'm just Burger King. I'm just going to tell you that. It's a wonderful prize, and we'll get you there via limousine. So you just got to stop by and see us. You have to be 18 years old. Sign up, and you have a chance to win that. So you'll see us every Friday night. We'll let you know what game we're at. And look on Friday. Hopefully we'll let you know on our website for the 112-page football preview issue. That is the true labor of love.
It is. Luch like that.
Talk
Talk about the Block. He's going to be showing up to those things in the Bobby Valentine glasses, trying to get that.
As close as I get to that will be driving the limo.
Very good. Want to thank the nice people here at Asylum for hosting us tonight, and we love having a partnership with them and are excited about that. Tom Tremblay, of course, making sure everything sort of goes well. He can't help the fact that we're not any good, but he can certainly make us sound better than we are. Steve Meyer, of course, our MVP of our group. Bob Batters, Ed Sarluka, and Kevin Williams. A reminder, next Wednesday, we'll do this all again. We'll be at the Office Restaurant and Lounge. Again, just check out our website for everything you need, shoresportsnetwork.com. Bob will have the football scoreboard for the next 2 days, next 4 days, actually, of action going up. So thanks to everyone for watching. We look forward to chatting high school football with you all season long. For my partners here, I'm Kevin Williams. You have been watching the Varsity Link Coach's Corner. We'll see you next Wednesday.